The British royal family survives on a single ironclad rule: never complain, never explain. For decades, this wall of silence has been impenetrable, but as of 5 minutes ago, that wall didn't just crack, it shattered. Sources deep within the intelligence network surrounding Buckingham Palace are reporting that the one royal who never plays games has finally had enough: Princess Anne. Following the explosive release of the new yacht photos that have surfaced online, insiders claim the Princess Royal has broken protocol to deliver a message that is short, brutal, and absolutely devastating to the couple in Montecito. The dossier exists, and I tried to warn him. Tonight, we aren't just looking at rumors. We are opening the Anne files. We are digging into the existence of a classified 2016 security vetting report, a document reportedly compiled by British intelligence that flagged the exact strategic connections the world is seeing today. For years, Prince Harry told us his family was paranoid. He told us they were blocking his happiness because of race or jealousy or fear of change. But today, the narrative has flipped. Reports suggest Harry is sitting in his California mansion, paralyzed by a terrifying realization. Princess Anne wasn't being cruel when she refused to accept his new girlfriend. She was being accurate. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are connecting the dots between the Mediterranean super yachts, the $500,000 earrings, and the secret warning that tore the House of Windsor apart. Do not click away, because the consequences of ignoring this warning are finally here. To understand why the tears are falling in Montecito tonight, we have to do the one thing Prince Harry refused to do. We have to look at the math. We need to travel back to the eye of the storm. Autumn 2016, when a member of the royal family begins dating, standard protocol dictates a level 3 vetting by palace security. Usually, this is boring paperwork, checking for unpaid parking tickets, bad credit, or embarrassing college photos. But with Meghan Markle's sources, suggests the vetting process didn't just return red flags, it triggered alarms deep within the intelligence community. Princess Anne, known for her no-nonsense approach and her deep ties to the British security establishment, was reportedly the first to read the file. What she saw was a timeline that simply did not add up. Let's look at the financial forensics that allegedly terrified the palace. Between 2008 and 2012, Meghan Markle publicly described herself as a struggling actress. We have the interviews. She spoke about hustling for auditions, driving a beat-up car, and worrying about making rent in Los Angeles. Her resume from this period lists minor acting roles, brief appearances on cable TV, and a stint holding a briefcase on a game show. In the brutal economy of Hollywood, she was working class. She was not a series lead yet, and she was certainly not independently wealthy. Yet the surveillance data travelogues and now these leaked photos from the dossier tell a completely different story. This struggling actress was somehow floating through the most elite international power spaces on Earth. The dossier allegedly placed her on yachts worth tens of millions of dollars, attending gatherings in Monaco and the Mediterranean that cost more per night than the average American earns in a decade. Princess Anne looked at the income, looked at the lifestyle, and asked the question Harry was too blinded to ask: who paid? Cable television roles do not fund summers in Saint-Tropez. Holding a briefcase does not bankroll a circuit of private yacht parties in the Gulf. The math was impossible, and in the eyes of British intelligence, unexplained wealth or unexplained access is the single biggest indicator of a security compromise. The dossier concluded that this wasn't a case of a girl getting lucky with a few party invites. It was systemic. It implied that what Meghan was receiving wasn't just help, it was support. It wasn't an opportunity, it was an investment. And as we know, powerful people do not invest without expecting a return. If the yachts were the stage, we need to identify the director. This brings us to a pivotal year that the mainstream media often ignores: 2015. This is the year before she met Harry, and according to the files, it was the year she attended the graduation ceremony of her social climbing career. The location, the grand opening of Soho House Istanbul. Istanbul sits at the crossroads of East and West. For the future Duchess, it was the bridge between Hollywood obscurity and global power. It was here, amidst the hammams and rooftop parties overlooking the Bosphorus, that the strategic social placement allegedly reached its peak. Sources whisper that this wasn't just a party, it was a marketplace. This event is the missing link that connects the Gulf-connected elites mentioned in the dossier to the woman who would marry into the British monarchy. The guest list was curated to ensure talent mixed with capital. The intelligence reports likely flagged that Meghan was introduced here to a specific network of Middle Eastern financiers and power brokers. These are environments where you are brought in because someone believes you can serve a function socially, relationally, or reputationally. This completely recontextualizes the blind date story we've been fed for years. We were told they met in London, orchestrated by a mutual friend who just wanted to see them happy. But if we accept the premise of the security dossier, this wasn't a romantic setup. It was a business transaction. The skills Meghan used to charm Harry, her intense listening, her discretion, her ability to make him feel like the only man in the room, were not natural quirks. They were skills quietly evaluated and perfected during those years on the circuit. She didn't look like an outsider when she entered Harry's world because she wasn't one. She had been navigating hierarchies more dangerous than the Windsors for years. We cannot talk about Istanbul or the yachts without talking about the man standing in the shadows of almost every photo, Marcus Anderson. For years, the media has painted Marcus merely as Meghan's best friend, her confidant, or a consultant for the Soho House empire. But in the classified files of the palace vetting report, he is viewed very differently. Princess Anne allegedly identified him not as a companion, but as a handler. Marcus Anderson was the global membership director of Soho House. His job was literally to know everyone who mattered and to connect people who needed things. The theory suggests that Marcus didn't just introduce two single people, he executed a placement. He took a candidate who had spent nearly a decade navigating elite power spaces, who knew how to read rooms and cultivate relationships with wealthy men, and he placed her in the path of the ultimate target, the heir to the British throne. Princess Anne reportedly tried to warn Harry that this relationship wasn't serendipity, it was engineering. She saw Marcus Anderson as the bridge between the paid yacht knights and the royal family. She warned him that bringing someone with these deep transactional ties into the monarchy was a ticking time bomb. Because when you enter the royal family, you are supposed to belong to the crown. But the dossier suggested Meghan already belonged to a different network. Now, skeptics and perhaps Prince Harry himself might say this is all speculation. They might argue that rumors of yacht nights are just misogynistic gossip. But Princess Anne allegedly pointed to one specific item in the Saudi dossier that transformed these rumors into hard, cold evidence. The proof isn't just on paper. It has been dangling from the Duchess's ears for the entire world to see. We need to talk about the chopard earrings. This is the chapter of the story where the impossible math becomes a physical reality. Officially, these stunning chandelier diamonds worth an estimated $500,000 were a wedding gift, £500,000. But when you look at who gave them, the narrative of the innocent Hollywood actress completely collapses. The donor was not a family friend. It was not a wealthy uncle. It wasn't even the Queen. The gift came from Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia MBS. Let's apply the brutal logic of the security services here. Why would the absolute ruler of Saudi Arabia, a man who sits at the pinnacle of global geopolitics, send a personal gift worth £500,000 to an American cable TV actress he supposedly had never met in the world of the Gulf elite? You do not give diamonds of that magnitude to a stranger. You give them to women you know. You give them to women who have been vetted, hosted, and perhaps employed. Intelligence analysts have long speculated that these earrings fit the profile of a severance package. In the world of strategic social placement, when a regular moves on to a permanent marriage, especially a marriage of this profile, the previous patrons often send a final high-value gift. It is a golden handshake. It is a thank you for your service. It is a signal that the accounts are settled. The earrings were likely the return on the investment we spoke about earlier. This context explains the absolute horror inside Buckingham Palace in 2018 during the famous Blood Diamond controversy. You remember the images. Meghan famously wore these chopard earrings to a state dinner in Fiji. This was just weeks after the brutal murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, a murder the CIA concluded was ordered by MBS himself. At the time, the press focused on the insensitivity of wearing diamonds from a man accused of murder. But the palace aides were panicking for a different reason. They reportedly begged her not to wear them. They knew the optics were catastrophic. But more importantly, Princess Anne knew what wearing them signaled. By wearing those earrings against the explicit advice of the crown, Meghan wasn't just being vain. She was signaling where her true loyalties lay. She was wearing the badge of her former life while holding the hand of a British prince. It was a public display of the Gulf power brokers who had facilitated her rise. To Harry, she claimed she had borrowed them, a lie that eventually came out. But to Princess Anne, who had read the dossier, it was a brazen display of defiance. It proved that the Saudi connection wasn't just history, it was a current act of allegiance. This brings us to the moment that reportedly broke the relationship between aunt and nephew forever. The confrontation at Gatcombe Park. Princess Anne didn't sit Harry down to talk about class race or etiquette. She sat him down to talk about security risks. She reportedly laid the dossier on the table and pointed to the term used by intelligence analysts, strategic social placement. Anne warned him that the woman he loved fit a very specific profile. She explained that in these circles, people like Meghan are not outsiders stumbling in by luck. They are comfortable. They understand the hierarchy. Anne's warning was chillingly precise. She hasn't just been dating Harry, she has been kept. But Harry, blinded by what he thought was destiny, refused to look at the evidence. He saw a victim of the press. Anne saw a beneficiary of the shadow market. He famously declared, "What Meghan wants, Meghan gets." He viewed the dossier not as protection, but as an insult. He buried the report. He ignored the receipts. And in doing so, he walked directly into the trap Princess Anne tried to close. This leads us to today. The title of our video mentions that Harry is left speechless and in tears. But we must understand the specific nature of these tears. He is not crying because his wife looks beautiful in a bikini on a yacht. He is crying because the Saudi dossier, the very file Princess Anne tried to warn him about in 2016, has turned out to be the script of his life. In ancient Greek tragedy, there is a concept called anagnorisis. It is the critical moment of discovery, the exact second a character realizes the horrifying truth about their own life. For Prince Harry, isolated in the sprawling silence of his Montecito mansion, that moment is happening right now. For the last decade, Harry has built his entire identity around a single powerful narrative, the hero complex. He believed Meghan was a victim, a naive, mixed-race American actress thrown to the British wolves. He believed it was his divine duty to save her. He gave up his military titles, his birthright, and his family to be her knight in shining armor. But the confirmation of the dossier destroys that narrative completely. The photos of Meghan lounging on the Serene with Gulf elites prove that Meghan Markle didn't need saving. She was never the naive outsider she pretended to be. While Harry was worrying about her learning to curtsy, the evidence suggests she had spent years navigating social hierarchies far more dangerous and complex than Buckingham Palace. Harry is forced to confront the sickening possibility that her naivety was a performance, and he was the only one in the audience who didn't know it was an act. He realizes now that he wasn't the rebel breaking free. He was the useful idiot. He was the final transaction in a decade-long business plan orchestrated by Marcus Anderson. He thought he was the love of her life. But looking at the impossible math and the timeline of the Istanbul connection, he must ask himself, was I just the exit strategy? The royal family has stayed silent, not because they are weak, but because they knew that eventually the truth would do the talking for them. And today, that silence is deafening. The protection is over. The dossier is open. The velvet trap has closed. And the aunt he rejected stands vindicated by history. Harry wanted to believe in the fairy tale so badly that he demonized the only person who loved him enough to show him the reality check he desperately needed. Now I hand the gavel over to you, the jury of public opinion. The question that haunts me tonight is about redemption. Can a bridge burned this badly ever be rebuilt? Does Prince Harry owe Princess Anne a public apology for ignoring her warning in 2016? Or is he too deep in the illusion to ever come out? Cast your vote in the comments below. Type "Sorry Anne" if you think Harry needs to beg for forgiveness. Type "Too late" if you think the betrayal is unforgivable. And if you appreciate us digging into the files, the mainstream media is too scared to touch smash that like button. It helps us keep the lights on and the investigations running. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you never miss a briefing. The warning was ignored, but the lesson will last a lifetime. I'll see you in the next one.